Hello and welcome to this episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. You're listening to Janine Luby, aka Funny Wine Girl, and I am recording a little early for a fantastic holiday that's coming up, but this is airing on that fantastic holiday, St. Patrick's Day or St. Paddy's. I am Irish, and of course, on this holiday, everyone is Irish. Although this year, I don't know how many of the "Kiss Me, I'm Irish" buttons you'll see. I wouldn't wear one because I don't want anyone really within 10 feet of me. And that has nothing to do with the pandemic. I just like my space. But anyway, I am excited. I say this every week, and I said people are going to be sick of hearing me say how excited I am for my guests, but I can't help it that I like the people that I have on my show because they're women who have great talent and I love being friends with them. And so I just do get excited about talking with them and sharing what they have to say with you. So for those of you who don't listen, but who watch on YouTube, of course, you'll have to check it out. And for those of you who are just listening, please go check out Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl on YouTube because we have a lot of visuals for you today. So of course, St. Paddy's Day, I'm going to switch hats now. I have my little headband now. This hat would be great if I was doing some kind of leprechaun cabaret. I don't think it's the most flattering. So I'll go back to my headband, but you're going to want to see what my guest has in her hands in a little bit because it's going to be pretty fun. So without further ado, I'm excited. It's St. Paddy's Day. We're going to talk about her new activities and hobbies. And Cheryl is just someone who's been reinventing herself pretty much as long as I've known her. But please get excited to meet my dear friend, longtime mentor, Cheryl Kaiser. Good morning, Cheryl.
Good morning. It's like, yay. Oh, wait, where is she? Oh. I love your hats.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, I know my mom saw this one on me on something I did for, I don't know, Facebook. And she's like, what the hell were you wearing? It's just a little big. I do think it looks kind of like it should be in the cabaret, an Irish version of the cabaret or something like that.
I have a special hat. Do you want to see it?
Yes. I think everyone would love seeing your special hat.
Okay. All right. So back here, I have the world's perfect cat toy. So that's why my cats are locked upstairs.
Wow, your hat trumps my hat.
I don't know if I even fit in the frame.
You do. All
right, there we are.
So for those of you who are just listening, you have to go to YouTube because Cheryl's hat is, beyond the pale.
Bonnet. Yeah.
It's called an ostrich
bonnet.
Bonnet. Okay.
It's a bonnet. It even has like a little tail here. So that's perfect when you're parading, it blows in your face.
Are you sure you don't have one of your cats on that hat?
They may be hiding up inside.
Cheryl's a cat lover, and you'll see her posts on social media. Where are they? Maine Coon cats? Is that what they're?
Maine Coons.
Maine Coons, and they like to be involved, it seems, in every part of your life.
Yeah, so if you hear pounding, it's the cats because I locked them upstairs, and thankfully I know for a fact that they used the litter box recently, so they won't need it anytime soon.
So before we talk about why you're wearing that gigantic, super duper fun looking hat, you are not in any kind of, cabaret, but I usually like to say how I know my guests, and I just rambled on about something about St. Paddy's Day, but let me just say real quickly for those listening, I always like to point out how interesting it is about people in your life and the people you meet and what role they might play and how they might appear again. Because when I got out of college, I had my degree in journalism, couldn't find anything. Well, I have to admit, I wasn't like pounding the pavement like kids do today. I wasn't looking super hard, but I needed a job. I became a bank teller, and that is how I met Cheryl. Years ago, many lifetimes ago, she was an admin to the VP at PNC Bank, and she scheduled me. I was what they called a floating teller, and I would go work at one bank in Girardville and Forest City and Scranton, all over. Cheryl and I just clicked. I don't know what happened, but we connected, and Cheryl has been like a mentor figure to me ever since. She got me involved in networking with other women, a group, I think Northeast Network was it called?
Northeast Network, yeah.
I was on the board. I got some experience doing communications with them. And then through the years, we stayed friends. But the thing I really want to mention before I turn it over to Cheryl is that she was key. And this is when you build the people you surround yourself with who can help you, not just who can help you. I'm not saying just to take, but you have to give too. But when I left Blue Cross in 2010, Cheryl was key in my transition because she said, you're going to need an office space. She had a beautiful old home in Carbondale that she used for her photo studio. She was a professional photographer and she had space, and she offered that space to me. And I had space that I could use for free, rent free, and a place to go, and not just the space, the geography, the location to work quietly, but to have someone across the hall from me where I could talk about the venting, the frustrations of running your own business, being an entrepreneur, just women stuff. And we bounced ideas off of one another. She was there to support me. So I want to thank you publicly for that, Cheryl. But I also want to tell people, surround yourself with good people, give to one another. And she has been key in my life. So now enough about my side of things, but Cheryl is a really good person, and you've been really important in my life and helped me a lot. So I want to thank you.
Well, it's been a pleasure and a blessing, and to see where you've come from and are now. And I guess anything that goes wrong is my fault. Right?
No. No one person is responsible.
Why did I do this? I gotta blame that Cheryl for encouraging me to follow my dreams. No, I've always been passionate about encouraging and helping women to follow, pursue, actually, not just follow. We don't want to follow because that means, to follow our dreams. It means the dream's always ahead of us. Like, I want you to pursue and do. I won't say catch or capture because that's kind of rough,
aggressive,
but to pursue and embrace that dream. And as you say, I've been reinventing since you've known me. That's pretty much true. It's like I've been like a ballerina. I've pirouetted consistently, but it is all part of the journey, and that's what I just love helping women do. And so I've pirouetted because we're beyond pivoting. I've pirouetted several times to where I am now, and helping women with that life vision, their journey of their life vision, and created the program. So it's using my photography, having been a professional photographer for 30 years, and and all the experience that I've had from an entrepreneurial standpoint, but seeing a lot of the transformation of the women I worked with. I've even, created your photography many times. We had a lot of fun.
Yes.
And just
Cheryl had done my headshots, and we had a ball with corks and wine stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So much fun. Yeah. You were great with that. Wonderful.
The bucket of corks and dumping them over your head. And you're like, ow.
Yeah, corks can hurt. I guess anything from above can hurt if it lands the right way.
What she doesn't know is I was using it as like, I was throwing it at it. No, I'm just kidding. This is my chance to wing.
Help Janine. Throw in a couple pennies, maybe a couple rocks.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just seeing the transformation of, working with, men and women both. There's just something with my photography. It's just always been some kind of way that is comfortable for me. Photography has shown up in my life since I'm, middle school. And it's been, I actually have tracked what it has been in my life. It was like my place to hide. It was my security blanket. It was all these things, but it's great to be expressive and so forth. But helping women see themselves differently is really what we need as women and men, to see beyond what I call the filters. It's the filter of past experience, poor choices, like whatever. We all have some filter that we look at our identity and our lives through. And I just love helping women get rid of those filters and to see themselves, as God sees them, and because we're all created uniquely. And having all those filters in front, like you don't see necessarily your purpose or what your calling is, or that you're worthy of embracing that calling that you've wanted to do or be since as long as you can remember. And, once we get rid of all the garbage, we can embrace that dream. So using my photography in a variety of ways, creating experience, like those kinds of transformational experiences, and inspiring change of perception, really, is where I've come to, because that has always shown up in my life in some way. My photography, I could be out walking and suddenly something like one leaf still dangling on a tree in March, brown and dried, curled up, but blowing in the wind, and it would just stop me in my tracks, and I just stand there, which is a contemplative method. Actually, it's like very meditative. It's like, what caused that one leaf to hang on through all the winter storms we have, and today's wind and the sun and the rain and everything else, and suddenly, like, it just comes to me like perseverance, and then I just have to record that image of perseverance. And it may not be a technically great picture, and I took it with my phone, but that's all that matters, because it was something I can look at later, and it represents perseverance and where I was and my head was on that particular day. And so I've kind of created a program, for women, using photography as a tool, whether it's a photograph of themselves that I create or one they have, and guiding them through the journey of self-discovery and meditation, self-care, and things like that. And it's exciting. I feel like I'm finally, and I hate the kitschy phrase, step into your truth or whatever. I feel
lean in. Are we still using lean in?
Well, yeah, I mean, kind of like lean in the hard time, whatever. But I finally
love
feel
buzzwords
where I've come to where I'm supposed to be, at least in this season of my life. Now, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, no, that's not where I was supposed to be. But in this season, I'm where I'm supposed to be, and it's cool.
But isn't that the beauty of it? And I think that's one thing I really admire about you, that I admire people who take risks, and, and I don't want to go the negative with people who just, if someone's content being the same your whole life, but we should be growing. And it's, I mean, if we're opening our eyes, there's so much to see, and so much we should be wanting to learn, keep continuing to learn, and even trying new things, learning new information, making new friends, and so that we're enriched. And so, like you said, for the season, we're not supposed to be in our 20s what we are in our 40s, or vice versa. And that's the beauty of it, I think. And I don't want to go off topic here, but we got serious because I want to get back to why you were wearing those feathers on your head. But I do want to say that you are a very talented photographer. And Cheryl has taken so many photos and created beauty for families, I'll say, for portraits and high school seniors. And you created something beautiful. I want to give a shout out for my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. Yeah. You photographed them. And I will say, and if mom listens to this, she'll be like, oh, thanks for sharing that, Janine. But my mom isn't
love
a natural
you, Mom.
smile. Yeah, I love you, Mom. I say this with love, and she'll still be mad at me. But she's not someone who likes to have her picture taken, and she doesn't like smile naturally. She just, that's not her. And you worked with her, and Dad, of course, smile. Oh, she'll love this, but Dad smiles easier. Dad's a little bit different personality type, but you got my mom to feel comfortable, and you were able to capture some really lovely, beautiful photos of the two of them. So that meant a lot to them and to me for their 50th wedding anniversary.
Good. Thank you.
So thank you. Okay. So we can come back. You have reinvented yourself, but I really want to tell people, I don't want this to be like it's all been a big tease. Like, well, why was she wearing the feathers? What's going on? Let's talk about, like I said, I admire that you are willing to try new things. So let's talk about why you had that giant feather hat on you and what it has to do with St. Paddy's Day.
Well, you talk about, taking a risk, and it really, I guess if you want to look at it as risky, because, it's actually saying yes. When something just kind of looks fun and you're kind of thinking, oh, I could never do that. Well, that's the filter of whatever, fill in the blank. So my husband a couple of years ago traveled to Scotland, and when he came back, he realized that bagpiping had come back into his life. And not that he bagpiped, but he always was curious and interested in trying it. And so because he couldn't be the runner that he had always been and do marathons, he had to find something to kind of replace that, because I won't go into running, but I know there's like a space that runners come to, and all I want to do is run to the store, frankly, and not on foot. So anyway, he took up bagpiping. And so he didn't tell me, which was pretty funny, for like a month. On Monday or Tuesday nights, he's like, well, I have a fire company meeting, and he'd leave. And I'm like, okay. And he'd come back, and he finally fessed up that he had started learning to play bagpipes. And so I was excited for him that he found something new, and he was excited. I've learned a lot about bagpipes. So in December of, I guess that would have been 2019, they have their annual Christmas party. So, Bill and I go. He's brand new. I don't know a soul at this party, but when the band performed for the families, there was a drummer, and I'm like, that looks fun. Now, I'm not talking about snare drumming, because I do not play percussion. Okay, I have never played percussion in my life. I stopped playing the clarinet in the 8th grade. So that's the extent of my musical experience other than singing. And not even sure if I do that very well, but so I'm like, that looks fun. I wonder if I could do that. And I found myself at the end of the party approaching who turned out to be the drum sergeant and the tenor drummer, and asked about how I could learn the tenor drum. Well, like any organization, when you have fresh blood, everybody gathers round.
You're like the chum in the water.
That's right. And, so we took a break over Christmas, but January of 20, the year that is forgotten.
When the world shut down.
I began lessons and learning new neural pathways of coordination, but it's a blast. I mean, yes, there's the serious aspect of being in a pipe band, very much because of the history of what piping is and everything, but the camaraderie of our band, I mean, everybody, like, we get serious, we do what we're doing, and then in between, the pipers are tuning or something during practice, and the drummers are like, okay, we just start teasing each other or whatever, just wisecracking things. We just have a lot of fun. So,
and tell us the name of the band again. I know you said there's a lot of history to it. And what is the name of the band?
Our band is the Greater Scranton Black Diamonds.
Okay.
Pipe band. So we're the local to Scranton band that you'll see at the St. Patrick's Day parade tomorrow, actually, which is,
yeah. Well, we're airing this on the 17th.
Right. So the 17th.
If you had a DeLorean, you'd have to go back and see her. But
there may be photos on Facebook. The 17th, we'll probably be at some bars. And I'm not sure where yet. We haven't heard. The Saturday, the 19th, we'll be in the Scranton parade. And then
it's the 12th, right? Isn't it this Saturday, the 12th, I think?
Oh yeah. So we're going back in time.
We're going back in time. Yeah. I should have.
We have 5 parades in 4 weeks.
So for the audience here, this is not Cheryl's fault. I should have prepped her on this. So this is airing on the 17th. When you were listening to this, you don't have a DeLorean like Back to the Future. You can't go back and see her, but you can see, and I will share in all of my posts about this podcast, anything that Cheryl has posted, great photos, because I know she'll have those up, maybe even little videos, snippets, because she is playing in how many parades? 2 or 3, I think, right?
We have 5 parades in 4 weeks. So after the 17th, at the end of the month, we have Allentown and Girardville.
Okay, so those take place after the 17th, yes. Allentown and Girardville. Okay,
yes.
So, and I know this is kind of weird because it's airing the 17th, but it's not the 17th. But you haven't, I think you did get to perform before, though, in at least one parade, right? Before this?
Yeah, we, Scranton had the St. Patrick's Day and a half parade. And
in September.
So did Wilkes-Barre. To be officially accepted in the band, you have to, do a little recital kind of thing. And then you have to be approved. And so thankfully, the Scranton parade lasts in September, and the Wilkes-Barre parade, which was the day after, the drum sergeant gathered myself and the 2 new snare drummers around and told us that we had been officially accepted into the band. So now we could go to the board meetings and all the other fun stuff. But, it's kind of cool to go from being a student to being part of the band. And that was exciting. So
where the cool kids are.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I play the tenor drum, and that is, everybody, usually you'll have a snare drummer and a bass drummer. The tenor drummer is kind of the lesser known drummer out in the world. We are kind of that tenor in between the bass drum and the snare. I mean, the snare drum's completely a different thing, but you'll hear the bass drummer. If there's a tenor drummer, you'll hear a lighter accent beat, maybe in between on some tunes. We're also the show-offs. And I think that was part of what caught my attention, is being a show-off. I think, it was kind of like a way to get over myself and not be, hiding. And, I think I secretly just want to be a show-off. So I think that's fine.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. And you carry a big drum, am I right?
I do.
That's what she said.
Walk softly and carry a big drum. Oh wait, that's a different quote. Yes, it is. Currently my drum is somewhere around, I think it's like 12 or 13 pounds, somewhere in there. It's pretty heavy because it's hanging off your shoulder and leaning against your legs. So, I have to be careful because sometimes it makes my kilt ride up a little bit, but
wardrobe malfunction. You won't be invited back, or maybe you will.
Maybe. But yeah, I'm the one where you see the twirling and stuff like that. That's me.
So we did want to, for the YouTube audience, so you're going to go check it out. We talked about showing the drum, but you said it would pretty much take up the whole screen. I mean, it's a pretty big drum, but you can show us your mallets. Is that what they're called?
I can. My little
and some tricks there. Oh, I like the green fuzzy on the end of those.
Yes. Well, every band decides on what color. So because there are many bands have several tenors. So some, you can get mallets in all sorts of colors. So our band is green with white sticks. So you'll see me doing this or this, or, as I'm striking the drum, and or cartwheel.
Oh, cool.
So and a lot of coordination.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I'm sure might. I mean, it depends on the person, obviously, how much time that would take. I never claim. I know my strengths. I'm creative, whatever, but I am not coordinated. I'd probably have that thing going out into the audience, taking a kid's eye out or something like that.
Well, I have hit myself in the head a few times.
Yeah, that too.
But yeah, my greatest fear, besides like my body giving out during a parade, is losing a mallet. Because I don't have spares. I mean, you can't get them easily down at the music store. So I care for my mallets carefully.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I have to keep them away from the cats too. They make great cat toys.
I was just gonna say, the way you were pawing at that, I'm like, I could see the cats loving those.
Oh yeah.
Now you showed something before. I don't know how it works in with the drum. It seems like it would be better for like an Irish West Side Story. You have some kind of dagger or something, or knife that you carry?
Yes. So,
or Sean Connery kind of film. I don't know.
So, the other thing about getting ready for parades or galas, I mean, there are so many different aspects to our uniform, and what color hose you wear, and are you wearing marching shoes with spats, which are the white covers we put over our ankles and shoes, belts and harnesses. I am trussed to the max. And when I say I think it was God's way of getting me over my body issues, when I am done, it takes me like seriously 45 minutes to get completely dressed. And I haven't dressed for like March parade yet at this point. But it definitely takes about 45 minutes. I actually use the spare room to get dressed in, just so I have space and, close the door so the cats aren't in there. But so one of the accent pieces, which back in Scottish, Irish, there are a lot of different kinds of bagpipes. I'm not Irish, but I do have a little Scotch in me. Doers. Anyway,
I was gonna say, wait, your husband, but okay, that's just going blue. Sorry,
but
go blue, green, whatever.
That's right. But they're actually, I think, Egyptian bagpipes and German bagpipes. But yeah, so, wow. But anyway, part of our uniform, and it's a very personal thing, along with your kilt pin is, and I forgive me, all my bagpipe friends, I forget the name of this. It's just a little knife that you purchase wherever you find one that tucks next to your knee down into the hose. And it's a little knife. So this is why you should never, ever mess with a bagpiper, because they carry swords and knives. So I'm just saying. But anyway, I have a very special one. My husband ordered it for me special as a little gift. It's not actually a knife, but it's a bottle opener.
Oh, that's awesome.
You just never know when you're going to need to open a bottle. So I carry my own bottle opener with me.
Well, in Scranton, it's called, hey, it's 5:01. Hey, it's 2:32. Hey, it's anytime.
Right. That's right. So, so I'm,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I was going to say, do you know what's the history of, now yours is very cool because it's a bottle opener, but like knives, swords, you mentioned, what's the reasoning for that? Because I'm thinking, okay, it's musical. Is there do they have fights in the street over who's a better drummer? Like, what's the reasoning for like the weaponry?
Well, if you go back to, origins, the kilt was the military uniform.
Okay.
And up until, I believe, World War II, and I forgive me if I have this wrong because my memory doesn't always work anymore. That was the Scottish uniform in millet. They went into battle wearing their kilts, and the bagpipe was actually a form of communication. It was like we would have a bugle to, lead a charge kind of thing. That was why you had pipers. They led the charge. Pipers were also banned at a certain point in history in Scotland because, and again, I wish I had brushed up on my history. They were banned because a piper could stand on a hilltop and pipe a certain tune or setting or whatever, and it could warn anybody miles and miles away. So if there was an enemy approaching, piper would pipe, and that was like sounding the alarm, to take cover or whatever. So piping was actually banned because it was a form of communication. It's also a very beautiful instrument, leading the queen or leading, a parade, and it's a great instrument. We do wear earplugs because when you're up close and personal, they're very loud. So you can definitely see how, it could carry, but yeah, it's a part of history. And that's kind of the serious part of being in the band is, I make jokes about the ostrich bonnet or, wait till you see the uniform I have to wear on the street. But, and all the parts and pieces, but honestly, when you're dressing, I just kind of feel really proud that, I can kind of carry on a tradition, and then our band has little traditions too, but that I'm carrying on a tradition that has been something people have done for a purpose throughout history. And I think that's just really cool. It kind of transports you out of today into thinking about, various things in history and reasons why, people dress the way they did. So the weaponry, the sword, the which is a dirk, the smaller knife, I ask every time too, and they tell me, and I still can't remember. It's all part of being in battle. You'll see, a cowboy or something suddenly pull a knife out of his boot. It's the same thing. So it's just part of the traditional uniform. And so I don't have a sword. I don't have a dirk yet, but that's coming. For now, my dirk is a little cup to hold my water bottle and and my sporran to hold my kilt in place, and which I think is more important for the boys and the girls. But
yeah. So do you want to show us again? I know people have to go to YouTube, but you have your kilt nearby too. You could show us just so we could see the colors and everything.
I do. So,
and I'm sure colors obviously mean something as well.
They do. The colors of your tartan is the clan. that you belong to. Our band has Black Watch, which is it's kind of like Stewart, I believe. There's a couple tartans that are just common, but it is one of the military tartans. The kilt pin is another thing that can be personal. My husband has an axe because he's a volunteer firefighter. Mine, I actually found when I was cleaning out my parents' home, is the Clan Cameron's the design for Clan Cameron, which my maiden name is Taylor, and Taylor was part of Clan Cameron. So I didn't realize what it was until I got home, and I'm like, this is a kilt pin.
Wow.
I'm totally, using this. So a kilt, actually it's on two pant hangers. A kilt is very heavy. This is all wool. It is 8 yards of fabric.
Wow.
So the pleats are deep, and there's a guy on YouTube who he lives in a kilt. Like, he wears a kilt as a regular thing, and he does YouTube videos saying you can do so much more in a kilt than you can in a pair of pants. And he does cartwheels with his kilt on and everything. And it just, the way it falls, you're not seeing anything. But he also demonstrated how if you're stuck in a storm, and it took him a minute or two, and he rewrapped his kilt where it was still around him, but up over his head as a shelter.
Wow.
It was really cool. So, but it's quite this was ordered for me. They measure you, and it's custom ordered from Scotland. A lot of things come from Ireland. I had ordered some sweaters when Bill and I were color guard. They came from Dublin. Beautiful warm sweater. Love my sweater. I don't wear it with the kilt, but so anyway, yeah, my arm's getting tired holding this up.
Okay. It's interesting that you mentioned so is it the pattern Black Watch? You said that's
yes.
Because we have, and I don't know if you've been there yet, it's a great little cafe on Naog Park property. It's called the Black Watch Cafe. So I'm wondering now, obviously there's some, history behind it, but it's gorgeous. Oh, not to derail, but for anyone who is in the area of Scranton, visit Naog Park and this cute little Black Watch Cafe on the other side of the street from the hospital there. It's the stone building is like the original stone building that was used in the park years and years ago for the bathrooms a long time ago. And they've maintained the stonework. It's got a fireplace inside, so it's warm in the winter. And it's just the cutest little cafe with great pastries and different drinks. So and now looking at their wooden sign, it's got a very, I say medieval, but I don't know history. So, I mean, that could be the wrong word, you know what I mean? But like, maybe it's tied to some Scottish or Irish traditions, which is kind of cool. Just you saying that just made me think of that. So now, so you said that's the plaid of the band that you're in?
Yes.
Okay. So everyone's wearing, that's like a green and blue kind of combination then.
Yes. Navy and green. Yep.
Navy and green.
Yes.
I think that's great. And now I wanted to make sure that you had a chance to say, you talked about the history, and it's unfortunate that I would imagine that this is something that could die out, because this is very cool and people love to see it when people will go out and cheer, and when you guys go in the bars, it's like, oh, here they are. But you need young people to join the band so this can carry on this tradition, right? And you guys are always kind of accepting, would you say, new people to come in and learn?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, you don't have to be young. I mean, you just have to have an interest.
No, I just meant that for the future. That's all.
Yeah.
I meant. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There are actually many bands. There are a couple bands down in the Wilkes-Barre area. Last September when we marched, we had an opportunity to do what they call a massed band, MASSED, massed band, where us and there was a band from Binghamton, New York, and a band from Erie. There were like 5 of us, 5 bands. And we lined up in front of the cathedral before the parade began. And as mass let out on parade day, all the bands played together the same song. And it gave you goosebumps to be part of that. It was just amazing. And so the Scranton parade this year, that's the plan, is to do that again with the bands. But we do always need new members. And it's been really interesting. The last year, we've had several new members come out. One is a kid. He is, I don't even know how old he is. I think maybe he's 10 or 12. He's learning bagpipes. So we do offer free lessons. And so anybody who is interested and wants to have lessons and commits to trying out for our band, the lessons are free. There's an expense to buying a chanter, but and then of course there's an expense of buying bagpipes, but the band has provided 99% of my uniform, except for the personal things, my kilt and some of the accessories are personal, but but on Tuesday nights down at Eagle Hose in Dixon City, at 7:00, we offer 1 hour free lessons to learn pipes, to learn drums, and then of course practicing on our own time too is important. And it's a lot of fun. But yes, I mean, having someone who has the interest and the dedication to learn, there's always room in a band. And we have people coming from, I think, Plymouth, and someone comes from Dallas for lessons. And so there are people who've been in the band a very long time who have moved, who are coming a distance too. But Tuesday nights, I mean, people are coming in from not necessarily very close like us, but to practice with the band. So we do lessons from 7 to 8. And then the students that are learning are welcome to watch our practice, the band practices together from 8 to 9. And then as the student gets further along and has their own set of bagpipes, they're welcome to join circle and play with the band as part of their lesson and learning experience too. So it is a lot of fun. We do a number of firemen's parades in the summertime, so we have a different uniform for that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hopefully a lighter one that you're not completely sweating in.
Yes, although we do still sweat because a kilt is really heavy and so is the drum. But no, it's a short sleeve white shirt and a Glengarry we wear instead of the big bonnet. This is our winter wear. We have a different uniform for special occasions like a gala or Friendly Sons dinner, where it's more a dinner jacket and gillies, which are the shoes that you lace up. And we wear a different kind of hose and things like that. But the kilt is the mainstay, and the dirk and, some of the accessories and the mainstay. It's just the footwear and the top that changes. So,
well, it sounds really cool. And I could see, so you kind of got into it. I mean, Bill, your husband, was interested in the bagpipes, that kind of perked your interest. What would you say has been the best part for you? I mean, like I said, as long as I've known you, you've never shied away from trying new things. I mean, you were learning some stand-up comedy that you did, excuse me, before the pandemic hit. And you've transitioned different parts of your business and what you focus on. So you're not afraid of trying new things, which again, I think is fantastic, because that is how you learn. And if you strike something that you really like, that's giving you fulfillment, and other people too, because they see the joy and it spreads. So what's been the best or most fun part for you, would you say?
I think probably most simply, if I can do it, you can do it. And being able to say that, because I am not coordinated. Literally trying to twirl mallets, remember the score I'm playing, keep time, and march with the rest of the band in step is, if I can do it, anybody can do it. But really the best part is, I mean, there's several aspects. I've learned something I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be doing. I, hadn't been in a parade since I was a Girl Scout, like brownies or something. But it gave me something to do, an activity with my husband. And because we don't, we have some things we enjoy doing together, but, you can't go out and sit at a brewery every single day. So, I mean, you could, I'd like to sometimes, but no, it gave us something fun to do together. And, we're going to go see some competitions and things like that. And it kind of, for something that was going to start out as something just I'll do casually, and I'm going to alternate Tuesday nights with Toastmasters and blah, blah, blah. It's like now Tuesday night's band night. Nothing comes in the way of band night, because there's something that kicked in that's like, I want to be good at this. I think it would be kind of cool. Like, I don't know, maybe I just have a secret checkbox of things our bucket list, we all have a bucket list. And I never thought being in a bagpipe band was on my bucket list, but now it's like, cool. Like I'm actually taking lessons right now on Zoom with one of the women who is a national judge for tenor and bass drummers. So she's spending an hour with me whenever I make an appointment with her to help me with my style and methods. And I think it would be really cool to compete, so there's that scary aspect of, oh my goodness, there are people who've been drumming all their lives and you see them there, and I'm like, what was that? And, so it's like, I see those videos or those people, and it's like, wow, I feel like, I'm just a beginner, and that's okay. And this woman told me there are different levels of competition too. And so I would be competing with other people at the same level I am. And as I get better, I would move up in the levels. So it's like, I don't know, suddenly it's like, if the opportunity came, maybe that would get me to practice even more and be more diligent and make it more of a priority than it is, and say yes to something bigger. And I think that's what I love, is just, we all should say yes to something bigger, something that scares you, because really in the end, unless it's going to cause you to tumble to your death or something, what's the worst that can happen? I look at it as, it'll give me a lot of comedy material, something to laugh about when I'm off at the breweries, having a beer with my friends, and a really good story.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying there. And I've talked about this in other episodes with other people. So what comes to mind instantly though, is like, a lot of times women say yes to too many things and then they feel stretched out. But what you're saying, I think is a little different. And I love that. I've talked about in previous episodes, David Sedaris, who's a very great humorist. I watched his masterclass and he was like, try new things, be curious. That quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, if it was truly from her, try something, every day that scares you. And I used to tell this to my speech class, and I used to say to them, now I'm not talking about, putting a blindfold on and driving, because that's just wrong, scary, but like scary, exhilarating, stretching your boundaries, learning scary. And it's the truth. It brings me back to the improv. Yes. And saying yes to things and then seeing where they go. If you don't like the results, after trying it for a while, you don't have to keep doing it, but say yes to different things and stretch your boundaries. I mean, all the ways you've mentioned, first of all, it makes you a heck of an interesting person to talk to. You have something to talk about. Your relationship. That could be a whole different topic. Your relationship with your husband. Now you guys have a shared hobby, which again, I'm no therapist, but it has to be good for a relationship when you have a shared hobby and something new that you're both excited about. Yeah. So there's so many wonderful benefits, and you're joyful, which I would think puts you in a good mood. It's something that you look forward to every Tuesday night. Self-satisfaction, self-confidence, you want to get into competition. So many things that have come out of this that maybe you would have never anticipated before.
Yeah. Well, and to what you're saying with, saying yes, taking a risk. And yes, we women fall into saying yes because we can't say no. And that's where the difference lies, is, when someone's like, would you serve on the board? Would you be in charge of this? Would you run errands for me? Would you take me to the doctor? And we start saying yes. That's where the overwhelm comes in. Okay. Because we're saying yes out of maybe obligation. Right. Yes, there is a certain part of our hearts that wants to help other people, but there have to be boundaries there too, because when it starts running your life and taking away the things that you truly want to say yes to, that's where the difference lies. Now, saying yes to something of, that looks kind of cool, I think I'd like to try that, which I did with comedy. It was suggested to me by a coach a bunch of years ago, you should try improv, So when the opportunity came along, I'm like, oh, but I don't want to embarrass myself. And then I'm thinking, all right, so what? And I signed up, had a blast, and it led to doing some stand-up things. And I still will do that again. But for right now, and, I said yes to drumming, that will be for quite a while. And there was that time in the beginning of, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself. I'm going to do it all wrong, and people are going to be mad at me. And, and that's all this little self-talk that was going on in my head. But it's when you have a welcoming community, like the comedy group and the band and people who have that passion, we're passionate about helping those who are saying yes. And even if you try it and you really give something a good try, like, you started running how many years ago? You
Yeah.
could have come home after the first time out when you ran half a mile and you're puking along and whatever. You could have said, "Oh, I tried it, I'm done." Or I don't want to run in a marathon or a half marathon because everybody will laugh at me. Nobody's gonna laugh at you. But what you will have at the other end is pride that you said yes, and the accomplishment and satisfaction that comes with it. Now, then you could choose not to do it again, or
Yeah.
maybe do it in a different way. So I think that's a lot of the difference between saying yes and having something overwhelm and take over your life, which I guess you could say drumming could take over your life too, or running or something. But you are saying yes to that, and you're building a life with that, as opposed to giving yourself away in ways that aren't building you up.
Right. And like you said, the obligation, and I'll say for me, I always blame it on my Catholic upbringing, but like the guilt too. Like if you don't say yes, that you're not a good person, that you're guilty. And there's no joy in having an obligation or something that you feel you have to do. But to your point about, like you had said before, you had never necessarily thought this was on your bucket list. That reminds me of years ago, like your husband, Bill, has been a runner for a very long time and doing marathons and half marathons. I remember it had to be, I don't even know now, maybe 20 years ago or, 18 years ago, standing on the corner by the anchor in Oliphant, watching and cheering on the runners saying, "Oh, wow, this is awesome," clapping for them, saying, "I could never do this." And now here we are. It's 2022. I'm 50 and I've done 2 marathons, and both were in my 40s. So it's like, and the thing is, I like you said, and do decide, try it, and then make it what you want it to make. I've never been fast. I was faster before than I am now. I'm getting slower, but I know what it does for me. I know that not only is it a physical healthy activity,
Mm-hmm.
it's a mentally healthy activity, reduces my stress. And for me, I was talking about this the other day with a girl who's just training for her first marathon. There's such a meditative flow even with running that I don't find with a lot of other activities. So it's like, yes, you think about your worries, but they come and go, and it's almost like you don't control it. It's subconscious. And I get ideas for comedy. I get ideas for just marketing, creativity. They pop in my head because of the flow. So that's enough for me with my running. I don't need to be, okay, don't get me wrong. I'd like to get medals, but I know that I'm not in that category, and that's okay.
Not why you're setting out to do it.
No,
you're not,
and that's yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but yeah, that's not my thing. And and maybe my body's not even built for it, and certainly isn't now. And it's like also what you put into it too. You have to be realistic. It's like, well, gee, maybe a donut and a half a bottle of wine isn't how you prepare for a run. I don't know. You have to realize that, you have to put certain things into it. And when it comes to sport, like running, it is kind of somewhat is genetics too. Some of that plays a role, but not to get off on that, but it's what you find, how you want it to fit in your life. And for me, I remember talking about it with a friend who went on to be an Ironman, and she's like, wow, if I had that kind of feeling or relationship with running, I probably would give up, because there were times that I like really struggled with it. Like when I'd get out there, my breathing wasn't right, but it still meant something to me, and I knew I wanted it in my life. So I've kept it. But to get back to what you were saying though, too, it's like, there is a big difference between the obligation, yes, and then the trying things, yes. And you've been personally fulfilled. And I think that's such a great example that throughout life, you can keep doing this.
Mm-hmm. And it's, there's an author out there with a book called Your Best Yes. And what I like to look to, and I don't want anybody to think like I never help other people. I have taken friends when they need it to the doctor and sat for 2 hours in the waiting room, and, other things that we do as a volunteer and so forth. And I find a lot of joy in that. But those times when your heart is kind of saying, you would have to not do these other things for other people or your family or something. And in that case, when you say yes, I was told you're actually taking away someone else's blessing. Like someone else, by saying yes, would be blessed by saying yes. And if you're saying yes under the wrong circumstances, basically, you're taking that blessing away from someone else who needs it, perhaps. So I remind myself of that every time I'm asked to serve on a board. And I really have to think about it, because in the moment, I'm all passionate. It's like, yes, I believe it. I'll be on the board. And then like the next week, it's like, what have I done? You know, like I'm passionate about the group and I'm happy to help in every way, but I didn't want that to become the center of my life, you know? So that's why I give everything 24 hours of thought before I commit to something, because once that, yeah, I'm going to do this. Once that passes and you really think about it, you know, and how it's going to fit into your life, then is that your best yes or not, you know? So, and it's okay. And I love to tell new entrepreneurs this, you know, in circumstances in business, when people want your money for some reason or another, like advertising or something, you don't have to say no, but you can say not now. So if someone's asking you to volunteer for something or to help them in some way, you can say, I'm not able to right now, contact me again, you know, another time. And so that's saying no without saying no.
Yeah.
And then
I like what you said too. It reminded me of a book, and I can't remember the exact, it was basically numbers. Like, I forget if it was 20, 20, 20 or 10, 10, 10, like take time to think. The whole premise of the book was like, let me think about this. How's this going to impact my life in the next 10 minutes? Is this something that's going to change me? It was that idea of, how about in 10 days? How will it look? Well, how about in 10 months? And it was like, and again, it could be 10 or 20. I forget what it was. The idea was more or less the very short term. How is this going to impact me like right now? And there are few things that it's like literally right now, you know, in the moment. And then maybe in a week or so, how's it going to look?
Yeah.
You know, in the next year, how's it going to look and impact me? And do I have enough to give to this, whatever it is I'm being asked, and how will it impact my life? So yeah, there's nothing wrong with taking time to think either. Like you said, I know I kind of suffer from that when people ask for something like that. I feel like I need to give it. We don't owe it to anyone. We could say, you know what, I need to think on that, you know? Yep. And that's a good way to do it. Before we wrap up, because I always like to, well, I don't always, but I would like to get into the habit of asking my guests. I've done this on occasion, and I know you, we talk a little bit about wine. I know you mentioned before your husband. I know you and your husband are like, I will call you beer snobs. You don't call yourselves that. I will, because it's like,
we totally call ourselves that.
Yeah, you guys love good beer. Now I'm not, you know, I'm not exactly Coors Light, but I'm not in your league either. Like, I like a Blue Moon, a Stella, you know, I like the wheat beers and stuff, but you guys are like, you go to certain breweries all the time, and I shouldn't say all the time. I don't mean that. They don't live in breweries, but you guys have traditions of going to breweries, and you like them. But you are also, we have spent many an afternoon or whatever at Malletessi's in Scott Township, looking out on the beautiful deck, and where you've again helped me when I got a new camera, you know, over a glass of wine. So I like to ask people, what's your favorite? Now, I know you're a beer drinker. You can tell me your favorite beer, but I'd also like to share what your favorite wine is as well.
Okay. So yes, the beer thing is something, again, my husband and I can do together. There's only one kind of wine my husband likes, and that's the super ultra sweet that makes you feel like you're going to get cavities. He'll drink that wine like on occasion with dinner or something, or maybe choke down a Riesling or something with Thanksgiving. But I do enjoy wine, and up until COVID, at least once a week, Malletessi's was my office. Usually around 3:00. It's like, I'm not doing anything productive. And I'd pack up some work and go sit at a table and have a glass of wine or two, and then sharing it with you. So I do enjoy wine very much also. Love doing wine tours and with friends who enjoy wine. Like I said, not something I do with my husband. So my favorite wine, I enjoy a lot of different wines for different reasons. I enjoy a Cab Sav when, you know, with a meal or just casually, and we're just going to sip, and we're going to, you know, I don't know, maybe cooler weather. I don't know. But I don't drink that quite as much as, say, a Riesling or a Pinot Grigio. I guess I kind of morphed to the white wine side. Excuse me. And that I enjoy casually. You know, you and I have shared many a bottle of wine.
Yes, we have. Yeah. And I, like you, like the white wine. So like I was just at the Finger Lakes a few weeks ago, and I guess I was told, and I should probably have done my own research on that too, that because of the soil up there, like Riesling it just grows well up there. So there's like every winery practically has Rieslings, and not just one, but maybe a dry and a semi-dry, so many different. And I love like the Sauvignon Blanc, the Chenin Blanc, the Viogniers. But yeah, we've enjoyed, in fact, we're overdue for having a little time, wine time at Malatessi's or wherever, but it's a nice winery especially in the spring, fall, and summer, with a beautiful deck that you can really enjoy.
Yeah. And so, I kind of go from the semi-sweet to the sweeter side generally. So, but I'm always open.
Now we'll get to your
things.
other passion. I don't want it to make it just about wine. Let's be fair. You guys like your beer. So for all the beer folks out there, for the sudsies, what are some of your favorite beers? And I have to say, we are getting a lot of like microbreweries around this region in Northeast PA, which is pretty exciting. Like I'll see stuff on Facebook and I'm like, where is this place? This looks so cool. Like it's so neat that we're getting these.
Yeah, craft beer is just booming everywhere, and around the country. I enjoy different beers for different reasons. I enjoy a good wheat beer more in the summer. I also love can't see through it dark stout, or a lot of the darker beers. The barrel aged, of course, you can only drink like a little bit of that, and it's like woohoo, but I'm a hop girl. There was a beer when we were out in Denver. We went to Avery Brewing, and they also, I think, do some contract brewing. But anyway, they had like an entire wall of taps, and it's a huge place. And on the way out, this is a couple of years ago, I noticed at the very last tap was called Uberschwein, which is German for big pig. And it was something like 160 IBUs. I don't know. I asked for just a sample, and I took one taste. I have never in my life felt like I had a mouthful of hay or hops to chew. Like I wanted to literally chew the beer. It was awful. My daughter had a different phrase for it. And all of us were like, okay, well, we tried it. Like, here you go. I mean, I like hoppier beers. This was just like way over the top. But yeah, we enjoy the craft breweries that have popped up all over, and each weekend we try, or whenever, try to go to different ones. If we have friends come visit, it's like we have the Luzerne County tour, and then we have the Scranton tour and the Wallenpaupack tour, and depending on what our friends that are visiting, what their flavor is. So we do enjoy that, and it's nice, especially in the nice weather. You can kind of kick up outside and have a nice beer in the beer garden or something. Yeah, enjoy that too. Of course, that doesn't help with the body image thing.
Yeah. No, I like I said earlier, like it's like, okay, I like beer, I like wine, I like martinis. So it's like, it's hard I wouldn't say hard. It's hard because I lack the discipline, but it's like, yeah, okay. If you like all that stuff, that all has calories and it affects you, and it doesn't help you get up early in the morning to go for a run. Yeah. But nevertheless, we're overdue for getting together, and I would like to hit a couple breweries with you guys too.
Okay,
because I do, but see, it's funny. I feel like the things I like, from coffee to everything else, I'm like, oh, they don't make the flavors I like. I tend to like more like things that are the vit, I guess you could say, right? They're like a Belgium or like the wheat beers. Yep. Yeah, I like those. So a lot of times I'll go, I am totally not a hoppy person. I'm not an IPA person. So if I'm lucky, if they have, or a Pilsner, I like a Pilsner. I guess that's like a wheat beer too, right? Or would that be called
more an ale?
Or more of an ale. Yeah. So those are the ones I like. So if I have one of those on the menu, I'm pretty good. Although I will say I tried, it was in Susquehanna. Gabby, you remember Gabby, who had Quotes Coffee House. She has a place out Jackson Township. I don't know. I think it was Susquehanna, had some little place, a brewery, and I forget the name of it, but it was like a raspberry or something beer. And I thought, oh, I'm not going to like this, but I actually did like it. It wasn't too heavy on the raspberry. So again, you have to try before you know, right?
There's a combination my husband likes, and I forget, it's a specific beer, but it's some kind of vit or ale, and with banana nectar. So he
Oh.
buys the cans of banana nectar and pours it in the bottom of a Pilsner glass and then pours the beer on top, and it gives it that creamy banana thing, but it's like a great pairing. So there are a lot of beers that they'll pour, and I forget which one, they'll pour a little raspberry syrup in the bottom and then pour the beer on top. And that's how you're supposed to serve it. Kind of like a Blue Moon, you're supposed to serve with orange.
Right.
So, and a lot of the wheat beers with lemon, I believe. So yeah, we enjoy a lot of different ones. My husband's a malt guy, so he goes for the maltier beers and pilsners and stuff before he goes to the hoppier end. So we try, anytime we travel someplace, the cue is see what you can find, which means I look at my watch, it's like, oh, it's close to lunchtime and we need to stop for something to eat, which is my cue for getting on Google and finding a brew pub somewhere. So if I can't find an actual brewery with food, I find a tap house that, is also a restaurant, and then we can try something local. So I am on Untapped. I think actually your brother is one of my friends.
Yes.
On Untapped. And so even last night we're out to dinner with friends, and they told me it was, I forget but it was like Pretty Kitty bubblegum IPA or something. I'm like,
God, I love the names.
Like, okay, well, I'll try that one. And my husband's like, well, take a look and see what your friends thought. And I'll log on to Untappd to see who's had it and what they rated it as. And that helps a lot too. And especially if I have to, buying beer in the store, I'll look at that to see what I liked the last time around and if I want to buy it again. I wish I had that for wine. They probably do. There's probably an app out there.
There is an app. Years ago, I downloaded it and I forget what it was, and I never really used it. But I like when I go to the state stores, I usually go to I don't know if they still call them the Chairman's Select or Chairman's Reserve, the ones that they kind of recommend. Like Clark Summit has a nice store. When you walk in, you go to the right. I mean, you could get anything from like literally $6.99 up to 20 something, like $25. And I've had some of the best wines, like one from Argentina, Zuccardi, and it was a Torontis, and I really enjoyed it. And I don't think it was more than $8.99. So again, say yes to wines. But following that, it is funny because I've met people. One of my side hustles, as you know, I'm an independent wine guide for Traveling Vineyards, so I can do wine tastings. And in the beginning, I'm not super I don't like to be pushy about it. I really just am enjoying learning about wine, and I'm not worried about making much money on this. But in the beginning, when I was reaching out to people who I knew drank wine, if they wanted to try some of the Traveling Vineyard wines or have a tasting, it is funny how some people are like, oh, well, I only drink this kind that comes from this region of France. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And my husband only drinks the red that comes from the blood of okay, whatever. But I mean, it's like people will only, some people will only drink what they know. And, again, I'm not encouraging alcoholism here or anything, but I like to try different, as long as it's, I don't like super sweet, so I wouldn't try something like that. And I'm not a huge red wine drinker, but when I'm in the liquor store, if I see, it's a French, type of wine that might be similar to a Sauvignon Blanc, okay, I'll try that. And if the price is right, I'm not gambling $25 on a bottle, because that's still a little high for me. But, for $8, $9, $10, give it a try. And then if you do like it, then you'll at least know for next time.
Yeah. Oh, I love trying new things in general, but, new wines, different kinds of beers, whatever. But you had a lot of interesting wines, and I'm always open to trying something because, there are certain things I never thought I would like a Cab Sav. And all of a sudden I was at a family party and that's all there was. I'm like, well, I'll have a little bit. And, when you drink it, it expanded my palate. So I learned what I like about a Cab Sav. It's a little drier than what I normally would be a go-to, but I do enjoy it, and I will buy a bottle on occasion. So it is good to try different things, even if you don't think you're going to like it, and just say you tried it. And there have been many times where I'm like, no, never drink that again.
No,
I'll
thank
cook
you.
with it instead. That's why we don't buy $30 bottles of wine. But it is good to expand one's palate.
Yes. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap up, because really we're talking about expanding your palate in life, your toolbox, all the things that, Say yes. And as I was saying to Cheryl before I hit the record button, I know, and I say this every week because again, I'm not tooting my horn. I like to toot the horn of the women that I've had the pleasure of getting to know in my life and continue getting to know, that there's so many different things we could talk about. We could go on and we could talk for hours and hours. So I would like to have Cheryl back because she has had, like I said, she has, pivoted, and now she said pirouetted. She's done beautiful photography, and she's never afraid to try anything. And I know that we could talk longer again, but I think I really wanted to focus on what you're doing that's so exciting for this season with the drumming. And we were able to talk a little bit in the beginning there about where you're at with helping with women see themselves through and their faith, through their nature, contemplative photography. And so Cheryl, in closing, where would you like to direct people if they did want to learn more about what you were talking about in the beginning, the different like photography and helping women and men see themselves better?
My website is probably the first place to start, CherylKaiser.com. I have two different pages on Facebook. One is, if you just type in Cheryl Kaiser, it should pop up. One is for, I'm doing restorations and branding stories. So that's like more the photography page. And then my other coaching page is with the Helping Women, my life vision journey page. So it's a couple different places. And of course, people can always friend me personally.
Because you're a friendly person.
I love to connect. So but my website, the homepage has a couple different areas that people can see the different kinds of work I'm doing and go off and check out things they're more interested in. So okay, I'm all around. Would love to connect with people.
Great. Well, I will also, when I post this episode, podcast episode, I will include Cheryl's website. So please click on it, look at Cheryl's work, read about what she's up to, and connect. Like, Cheryl is a very interesting person, someone just to get to know and expand your friend group, because that's always a good thing. We learn from different people who aren't just like us. Imagine that, right?
we are all unique. So
yes,
nobody's
we
like
are.
us.
Yeah, that's right. So get to know different people. Well, I want to thank you, Cheryl, so much for joining me today. And we've talked about this for a while, but like I said, I get ideas when I'm running. And just the other day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'd love to have Cheryl on around St. Patrick's Day so we could talk about your new hobby, or, I don't know if hobby, I don't mean to say that if that sounds derogatory, your new activity, your new joy, whatever word we want to say. So Cheryl, this will air on the 17th, but I believe you said after the 17th. For those listeners who might be in the Lehigh Valley area, you will also be in the Allentown St. Patrick's Day Parade and Girardville, you said.
Yes, Girardville on the 26th. And Allentown, I think, is Sunday the 20th. Something like that.
So for listeners who are maybe closer to those areas, you can still see when you see is it Black Diamonds Band?
Yes, the Greater Scranton Black Diamonds Pipe Band.
Look for Cheryl and her Black Watch quilt, not quilt, kilt, not a quilt. You're not walking in a quilt.
It feels like a quilt, but and my green mallets.
Your green mallets and her knife / bottle opener in her hose.
Yeah.
She's got tucked in her hose. All right. And be sure to check out YouTube Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl to see all the cool items that Cheryl was holding up. But I want to thank Cheryl again. And I want to thank my listeners for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this. And if you have, remember to subscribe and share. And if you haven't, as I always like to say, tell your dog your goldfish, or you can always reach out to me because I love criticism. Who doesn't? No, but seriously, I hope you've enjoyed it. And I do appreciate you listening so much. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my wine glass. So tune in next week.
Thank you for having me, Janine.